Okay, so we just saw the documentary of Juan Pasarelli, and because of the time zone differences, he will not be able to join us tonight. But he actually is now with us today. Actually, Friday is 9:45 in the morning, so he wants to share a little bit of what is happening around the case of Julian Assange. But also, we would like him to introduce a little bit more about himself and about what motivated him to do the documentary that we just watched. So I'm going to start introducing very briefly Juan. He's a journalist. He has actually worked on many documentaries, as I know. And this one that we just saw was specifically about freedom of speech and the case of Julian Assange, as we saw. So, Juan, thank you very much for joining us. And please, if you can just tell us a little bit more about yourself and what motivated you to do this documentary, and let's open there.
Hi, thank you, Samuel. I'm very sorry I can't be with you in person. I'm actually flying tomorrow, which would be the time when I would be able to speak to you very early in the morning. I'm a documentary maker and journalist, investigative journalist. I've worked alongside Julian Assange for about 10 years, and of course I've been following his struggle throughout. Now it's about 14 years since he first published the documents, the Chelsea Manning documents, which were the collateral murder video, the Afghan and Iraq war logs, as you just saw, in the Guantanamo Bay detainee files. I was introduced to him in 2010 October, and they hired me to film behind the scenes before the launch of the Iraq war logs, which was the biggest press conference up to this day. So I grabbed my camera just out of my master's degree in TV journalism, trying to make documentaries, and I started to film them. And then I kind of got access to film them throughout. So for the last well, not 14 years, but at least for the last 10, I was filming him and the WikiLeaks crew, and I was working alongside them. Currently I'm working on a series, a documentary series about his life. I guess I'm a WikiLeaks expert after after all this time, and about how so many irregularities can only be explained by a systematic abuse of his human rights, which today have him silenced for 4 years now inside a maximum security prison with no charges in the UK, and being the foremost political prisoner. His charges in the US for what the US wants him is espionage, which are political offenses. The extradition treaty between the US and Britain does not allow for political cases or extradition for political reasons. Now he is still in prison, and he's now in the last leg of a hearing in February 20th and 21st. He will either be extradited or given the right to an appeal. Actually, this is very. I should go back and tell you a little bit about how this film came about and what Julian's case is at the moment. So I made this film as a little side project because I thought that after 10 years, and that was August 2020 when I released the film, a few days before his first extradition hearing was going to take place in September 2020. I thought that it was important in a concise way to explain exactly why Julian is behind bars today, which is in his indictment, the indictment for what the US wants him for is receiving and possessing and publishing classified documents. That's 17 out of the 18 charges. And then there is one charge of conspiring to commit computer intrusions, which is a 5-year charge, very easily debatable. In fact, it was we saw in court that case crumbled to the point that the U.S. decided to make a superseding indictment, which meant that they had to retract the indictment, set him free in parentheses, and give a new extradition request without having to go back in time and give his lawyers enough chance to reply to the new superseding indictment. That happened in just as I was releasing the documentary, actually. So in total, the U.S. want him for a maximum possible sentence of 175 years. He would be sent to. He would land in the Eastern District of Virginia, as you saw in the film. He would land there and be put in solitary confinement. And for national security defendants, they have a special treatment. They're called SAMs, Special Administrative Measures, and that means that he doesn't see a single person. He can't. The prison is engineered so that prisoners can't talk to each other. The people, the guards, they are instructed not to talk to them. They have, I think they get a half an hour telephone call with loved ones every month, and 2 hours per month with their lawyers. Their lawyers are not allowed to talk to the media about the case. These measures were introduced as the war on terror started, and the administration of the Bush administration didn't want Al-Qaeda members to be able to send messages to their allies, so they completely encapsulated them in this world. And once convicted, which is what would happen in a court which is rigged, in a court where almost everybody in the jury would work for the national security apparatus and the national intelligence apparatus, there is no way he could possibly have a fair trial. And we've seen it with other cases that of whistleblowers that have been tried in that court. So in June 2020, no, sorry, in January 4th, 2021, just 2 days or 4 days before Biden would have taken power, Julian, the magistrate court, the judge Vanessa Bareitzer, decided that Julian shouldn't be extradited under health grounds, which of course was a victory for him, although not for his struggle, because what was being debated in the hearing was that in the Espionage Act, which is the one he would be tried on, there is no public interest defense. So he cannot say, I published these things as a journalist. He's being tried as a spy, as a KGB agent or FSB, whatever. So it set an incredibly dangerous precedent. In the UK now, any journalist who has classified information, including the information that the Guardian and the New York Times and Der Spiegel and Le Monde and El País published alongside Julian, they can be arrested and extradited to the US, just like Julian did. Julian is like a litmus test for democracy. If he's extradited, well, the repercussion to journalism is huge, and if we don't have independent journalism that oversees and reports on the crimes and the corrupt affairs of government, then we don't know who we are putting in power. Mm-hmm. So once Julian won his first trial. The U.S. appealed, and they, of course, that takes months, still in prison. They didn't want to give him bail because he helped Snowden get away and end up in Russia. He wanted to go to Ecuador, actually, but the U.S. Withdrew his passport, and he got stuck in Russia, the only place where they can't get him, which is really ironic. So the argument that the same Judge Bareitzer gave for not giving him a bail is that he helped somebody escape bail, or he could go into another embassy and spend another 7 years inside an embassy, whilst General Pinochet was under house arrest in fighting extradition to Spain, ordered by Baltasar Garzón, who is Julian's lawyer. I saw him yesterday. So the US said, okay, we will give you assurances that we will not treat Julian Assange in this foul way with SAMs. We're gonna, they gave assurances that he was going to be in a nice 5-star hotel, pretty much, ridiculous assurances that they wouldn't put him into SAMs. But, there's many other ways of putting somebody in solitary confinement. The number of people that are in solitary confinement in the US is staggering. I don't know it right now, but it is shocking, knowing that the US is the biggest prison population in the world. So the US gave these assurances on an appeal hearing, and they won. At that point in time, we had already found out through a Yahoo article that interviewed 30 secret service agents, 30 CIA and Secret Service agents who told this Yahoo News reporter that they had planned to kill him and or rendition him, kidnapping him from the embassy. His legal team, of course, used this document to say, look, this is happening. The people who decide if Julian has SAMs is not the Department of Justice, it's the CIA. So the CIA is planned to kill him or kidnap him from the embassy, and you're telling us that that is something that is acceptable. The court ignored this evidence, and they said that the U.S. is a democratic ally, and they would, of course, take good care of him. Julian then had to, in the UK, there's this really strange system where if you want to appeal, you have to get permission to appeal. So you appeal to appeal. And for the last year, he's been trying to do that. He's been appealing to appeal. He lost one of in a hearing earlier last year, around October, I think. A judge took 9 months to decide he would not get permission to appeal. And then the court took a whole bunch of other months to say, okay, we're going to have a 2-day hearing, and you can tell us if, and we will decide after that if you have a permission to appeal or not. If the court continues to do what they have done so far, there are no new arguments, Julian would be extradited in the next couple of months.
Mm-hmm. Can I 1 second here?
Yeah.
Juan, even if using the argument that he may be killed or his life is actually threatened if he is extradited, can that be used also as an argument to avoid the extradition?
The judges have ignored all CIA evidence in this case. There is an ongoing legal a legal trial here in Madrid, where the company who who was hired by Ecuador to protect the embassy, the security guards, was actually spying on them on behalf of the CIA. So they were specific. We have tons of evidence that they were targeting his lawyers and his privileged conversations with his lawyers. They went as far as to hide microphones inside the extinguisher, the fire extinguisher inside the meeting room in the embassy, and also inside the ladies' room of the embassy. Julian used to have his sensitive meetings there. He would put the faucet on because it was the only room that was completely blocked by all sides. Like there was no windows, it was just walls. So that was the only place he felt like he could talk freely in a very tiny embassy where the guards and the embassy and the ambassador was making him feel more and more threatened through as time progressed. It was a welcoming place during the Correa administration. Lenin Moreno took power, and he wanted him out, and they revoked the citizenship, the Ecuadorian citizenship that they had given him to be able to hand them over to the English authorities.
Yeah, wondering about your documentary, if you feel that also your documentary could be used, or if you feel that whatever you're exposing your documentary could be used against you, because this is a bigger picture. That's my first question. The second question is that if you think that the elections in the USA will change even worse the situation towards Julian, or it doesn't really matter who is in power in the US?
Well, I am living currently in Berlin. I lived in London for about 12, 13 years. And I chose to live in Berlin because there's no difference in the type of work that I do than what Julian does. So, I have a kind of self-imposed exile because I feel that I could be potentially put at risk. I've handled the secret documents that Julian is being, had in his possession. Many journalists did, hundreds of journalists did. Among them, it was me. So, yeah, I do feel like we could be next, and more grave is that the next time that Chelsea Manning or an Edward Snowden or big whistleblower goes to the media, there will be more lawyers inside the editor's room to decide if the information that should be in the public domain should end up there, because their lives could be put at risk through this. And I'm actually quite afraid that that's already happened. We don't know. This is the type of thing you would never find out. It would be a conversation in an editor's room, and I think that they must be considering it if big revelations come to fruition. Sorry, you gave me another question. Oh, the elections in the US. For Julian, Trump did something that no other administration had done prior, which is to charge a journalist, a publisher, under the Espionage Act. Usually it had been reserved for the sources, Daniel Ellsberg and Pentagon Papers, and others, that brave whistleblowers, including Chelsea Manning, who spent a lot of time in prison and was given a pardon by President Barack Obama right before he left power. But there is, even though Trump was the one that put the charges on, there has been no relief from the Biden administration, and I don't see that there is any difference in between another Biden candidacy or what will probably end up being another Trump pardon. Although I have to say this, on the last days Trump was in power, I had a source that was communicating with somebody within the Oval Office, and they were discussing the pardons, and Edward Snowden and Julian Assange were top of the list. This was after January the 6th happened, the big riot in the US Capitol building, and Trump was facing an impeachment hearing, and the House, the president of the House Representatives on National Security phoned Trump and said, look, if you put Julian Assange and Edward Snowden in the pardon list, we will not support you on your impeachment. He was blackmailed to take those names out. I saw a copy of the list, which was then, so, you know, there is no indication that the Biden administration will pardon Julian in the next, you know, the coming cycle would post November, November something, when the elections are. You know, this is a political case, and unfortunately, by delaying it, but they are punishing him by process, right? Delaying and delaying and delaying. You know, every time there's an appeal, they're happy because he's silenced. We haven't heard a single voice from him, apart from Julian shouting behind a glass wall because he's put in the back of the prison like the criminals in The Hague, the Holocaust criminals in The Hague. Julian said, look, I'm not part of this case. I'm as much part of this case as an spectator in Wimbledon is. You know, he wasn't able to talk to his lawyers. When he was able to talk to his lawyers, he had to speak in loud voice, and the people who were in the prosecution was obviously able to hear him. So that was actually the last words we've heard from him. In the second hearing, when the US gave its assurances, which at the bottom said we can break all of these assurances once he's in the US, they were arguing that the medical evidence presented by the defense was untrue, and Julian suffered a stroke the day of that hearing. He wasn't able to participate the second day. It's an systematic abuse of his human rights. You know, in Daniel Ellsberg case, he revealed the Pentagon Papers to the New York Times and the Washington Post. Richard Nixon ordered some of his henchmen to break into his psychoanalyst's office and produce evidence that he might be crazy or something. But that came to light, and the court threw out his case just because of that. Now we're talking about systematic espionage on his lawyers by the country that's going to try him. It's to me, there is. He's not had a fair hearing in the UK, and definitely he will not get a fair hearing in the US. The system has managed to corrupt himself. I mean, the last judge, Judge Swift, who denied his appeal, he used to work as a lawyer for the government, and he's given interviews where he says his favorite client are the intelligence agencies because they're very motivated. How can we trust that when we know the main opposition to Julian is the CIA?
That's true.
And its allies, you know, the Five Eyes allies.
Okay. Well, yeah, no, this is really, really bad. It doesn't seem very good, the next steps or whatever is happening with Julian. We are going to be putting our eyes on whatever is going to happen on at the end of February with that trial. One of the things I've noticed is that in the news, in the media, all that case about Julian has been diminished and has been diluted for sure because of the time. And I hope that at this point we should actually, again, kind of make it more open and more loud what is happening there, because what you are telling us here is so important and people don't know all these type of things that are happening. One question I have to you for you, Juan, is about the WikiLeaks. What's happening with WikiLeaks? Is still working? Is it going on, or is it closed, or what's happening with WikiLeaks now?
Well, WikiLeaks hasn't published anything for a while now. It is ongoing. It, as far as I understand, they are still receiving information. Now, the reason why not they haven't published anything is, you know, I don't have an answer for that. I could maybe think that one of the reasons why is that they consider Julian as WikiLeaks has always considered sources, which is they cannot publish something that will put a source at risk. And I would imagine with the political fights that Julian is facing, that publishing something of big consequence could put Julian's case more at risk. Now that is assumption of mine. I don't have any information about why WikiLeaks is not publishing. The website is open, and you know, one of the things that Julian was trying to build with WikiLeaks is not just a Dropbox, anonymous Dropbox that receives big secrets, but also kind of Library of Alexandria 2.0. You know, it is a library that contains the biggest diplomatic history of our modern times, and how governments relate to each other, and of course all the vast amounts of documentation about how America has carried out its warfare for the last 20 years, and their allies, you know. So that still lives on, and it's going to be continued to be used by academics, by journalists for years and years to come. This is something that I know that they have suffered attacks, as they usually do. You know, WikiLeaks suffers all sorts of denial of service attacks and trying to bring the website down, but it's up there, and people can go and search whatever they want. Search for your favorite congressman, or just they're going to be there, and you can see what they say behind closed doors.
Sure. Sure, Juan. The time is starting to yeah, to be quite limited now. But I just have another question for you as a journalist, Juan. How do you see? Because there's a fine line between what we may think national security, because that's their argument, and transparency. Let's put it in those terms. As a journalist, how do you see that fine line that perhaps should be respected or not? Should be actually something should not be actually voiced to the public, or maybe yes? What's your opinion about that? And maybe the next question here implicit is, how do you see the future of informing to the public now that we have the media? This should be more transparent. But again, what is your opinion about the future of this type of transparency based on the light of what is happening with Julian and everything that you have been talking so far?
Sorry, can you repeat the beginning of that question?
Yeah, the fine line between national.
Oh, the fine line between national. Of course, governments need to keep secrets because of operational reasons, because of sensitive issues that governments need to discuss in between them, operational things that concern national security. All of these are legitimate secrets that governments need to protect, but protecting crimes and criminal behavior, they cannot do that. That is against our democracy. You know, we can't allow our representatives to commit crimes in our name, and that's what good investigative journalists, which are less and far between nowadays, are doing every day. You know, they try and look for sources about what the governments are doing, about how they are the U.S. government is operating in Ukraine or in Gaza, and telling us about it. If we don't know what they're doing, and they push for more and more secrecy, of course, you know, the CIA is operates under implicitly under secret, and they try to use the system of secret and top secret to hide more and more every time. So if we allow them to continue, we're just gonna stop being democracies and turn into authoritarianism, which, in my view, as Julian's case is ongoing, I think we're heading that way. The way that we can stop it is by educating ourselves, knowing about what's going on, reading in depth about this case. This masses and masses of documentation about what WikiLeaks has uncovered, and about the Julian case is kind of like a leak in itself, because it has revealed the operations of the powerful when they don't want their dirty laundry to come out. And he is a message. He's a message to any other journalist that if you put to the public our dirty secrets, we will come after you, and with everything they got.
Yeah. Thank you, Juan, for all your insights. This is very valuable. We are here in Canada. Again, we expect this to be also a democratic country, a free country in which we could express ourselves. I appreciate your sharing with us. A last note that you may want to have or to give to our audience, perhaps how we can support from our, as simple mortals here. What can we do in this case?
Well, you can always go and donate to WikiLeaks or the Julian Assange Defense Fund. Julian's in dire need of always, if you're a cryptocurrency dude, go and give some Bitcoin away. Actually, Bitcoin was the reason WikiLeaks survived when Visa and MasterCard and PayPal and Bank of America blocked any donations to them back in 2010. And they started to receive Bitcoin, and Bitcoin grew, and that kept the organization alive whilst they sued these companies and won. At some point you could donate to the KKK, but you couldn't donate to WikiLeaks. It's absolutely astonishing, the internet is the biggest power we have to educate ourselves, and it's also the biggest surveillance apparatus we've ever created. Julian used to say the Stasi, the secret police in Germany, used to have about 25% of penetration into the social fabric. The internet has 100% penetration, but we shouldn't see that as a fatalistic outcome. Even though I'm very pessimistic about the future, there is no point in dwindling in the negatives, but rather do something. Learn, use the internet to learn as much as you can, to share as much as you can, and take more informed decisions by just sharing and debating. Nowadays it seems like having a debate online is something almost hazardous to you if you have an opinion that is maybe not as popular than others. Don't let that happen. Just go out and talk and share and continue to grow in our understanding of the world, because that understanding is going to help us create a better world.
Thank you very much, Juan. These are great words to finish. I really appreciate your time with us, your insights again, and sharing with us your documentary as well. On behalf of me, again, of the people that are actually with you in this fight, thank you for your fight and your involvement in what's happening there. Our best wishes on what's going to happen in next steps in the next days with Julian Assange. We're going to look to the news and what's going on. And please count on us on whatever is needed. And thank you again, Juan.
Sure, I will be reporting on the case live from outside court, and we'll have people inside court live tweeting what is happening. So you can look for Juan and Only Dude if you want to follow me on Twitter, or Free Assange campaign, and they'll be, we'll be covering it live. So it's going to be an exciting time, and hopefully with a good outcome.
Sure, we'll do that. We'll follow you, and actually in the college, we're gonna make my students to actually to be interested in this and be following you as well. So good luck with that. And great to see you, Juan. Hopefully we'll have a chance.
It's great to see you, man.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.